Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for coming. Thank you. And thank you, Janetta, for being here. It's always good to see you. Let's talk about the budget. I had the opportunity this morning to present to the council a balanced budget. I also had the opportunity to speak to my cabinet, Chairman Mendelson, about the budget before us. So I'm going to say a few things and also invite my budget team and agency directors as we get questions that are specific to their agencies. I may also call upon them to answer questions. I want to acknowledge that our Chief Financial Officer, Jeff DeWitt, is here, and I want to thank him for his participation and cooperation during this process. The Chairman of our Finance Committee from Ward 2, Jack Evans, is here, and the Council Member at Large for Housing, Anita Bonds, is here as well. And I really want to acknowledge the cooperation of all of the members of the Council in this first part of the budget process. Let me just say a few things overall about our budget. When we walked in the door, we faced a budget gap. In fact, the CFO estimated at the time on January 2nd that it was $240 million. He reduced that in February and said that we had a gap of $190 million. And what has led to that gap is an increased in projected cost of 4.1% over the entire government, with only an increase in revenue of 3.1%. So that's why we see that gap. We decided to approach our budget with several principles. First, we were going to rely on a very, very talented team that we've been able to recruit to help run the government to find innovative solutions to the budget problem. We would engage the public at the outset of the discussion, and so we had telephone town halls with our own employees, but also 3 budget engagement forums across the city. We also look to every cluster of the government to contribute to solving the budget problem. And we challenge the agency directors to do more with less. We also targeted inefficiencies, underspending, vacancies, and not across the board cuts. We were committed to preserving our middle class tax reductions in maintaining and investing in the district's workforce. So let me also just tell you that we are presenting a budget that has grown some from last year, but not as much as budgets in the most recent years. For example, the budget that we propose is represents a 3.2% increase. The previous budget, the current budget that were in, was almost 5% over the previous budget to that. And in 13, the change from 13 to 14 was actually a 7.5% increase. So this represents one of the slowest growth years in recent years. Let me tell you a little bit about the investments. In our neighborhoods cluster, we are investing $100 million in the Housing Production Trust Fund, and committed to do that for about 2 years now, and I'm pleased to say that we're able to do it. We're about $50 million that we can accept from deed and recordation taxes for this purpose, and the remaining 50 comes from the general fund. Part of our housing commitment includes $2.4 million in rental assistance through the Housing Authority, and over 6 years of investments in tree planting, green space, bicycle, and pedestrian amenities. Let me also say about a little bit about investments in neighborhoods, including investments in neighborhood pools at Hearst Park and Walter Reed, recreation centers at the Arboretum, we preserved the funding that has been dedicated to the NOMA parks, and we've included funding for Benning Park Recreation Center and the Anacostia Recreation Center. On education, we've increased the education funding to keep pace with our growing enrollment, which is very good news. About 2,000 more students in our entire public education system. We've also invested in the Empowering Males of Color initiatives, additional $200,000 to expand our community schools initiative, and $184 million for the total transformation of our central library, the Martin Luther King Library. And we have pushed those funds up so the library's planning and construction could begin in the upcoming fiscal year. We have also invested in neighborhood libraries so that we can complete the many years commitment to transforming our libraries. Also on education, in the capital spending portion, we are going to invest needed capital dollars at Banneker, Garrison Elementary School, Murch Elementary School, Coolidge High School, Brown Education Campus, Watkins Elementary School, Ward 7 Specialty School, and Orr Elementary School. In the area of economic opportunity, we will continue to fund an expanded SYEP program. We will expand our commitment to Kids Ride Free. You know, we have about a year's worth of experience now with Kids Ride Free on the bus. And what we heard from families is that so many more families could take advantage of the benefit if it extended to Metro Rail. We know in the case of the bus, a family with 2 kids saves about $720 a year, which is a significant benefit to what they need to do to make ends meet. We've also amended the microloan program so that it covers more businesses in the District of Columbia. Very significant investment in this budget is a down payment on the homeless program that was just approved by our ICH. It totals about $18.7 million, and it is going to help us ensure that homelessness in the district is rare, brief, and non-recurring. In addition to that commitment, we're also putting a down payment on DC General replacement units in the capital budget. It'll be $20 million in the next 2 years to construct or procure units to replace DC General. We will also include a $3 million high-tech incentive program as part of our DEMPID tools, and $1.5 million to expand career services for high school students with disabilities, and $5 million, a one-year $5 million extension of the TANF benefit for residents approaching the 60-month deadline. Let me turn to public safety. We are making a commitment to make sure we have more officers that are doing the job of policing and not administrative jobs. So we are committing $2.9 million to the civilianization effort that Chief Lanier will embark upon, where 48 positions will become civilian positions. We're also committing $5.1 million to police body cameras. And we're also funding a pilot program that the chief will work with our union to retain officers. So how can we keep more officers from exiting the police force? And we're looking at a number of different programs to do that. So with a retention program and with hiring 300 officers a year, we fund our efforts to keep police on the streets. With regard to infrastructure and investment, We fully fund the WMATA request. We heard loud and clear from Councilmember Evans that we should not increase fares on bus or rail, and we should not cut service. So the board acted accordingly. In my proposal, we fund those efforts, and we looked for ways to mitigate that impact on the bottom line for Metro, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. We also have in this budget a increased commitment to roads, sidewalks, and alleys. We've had a tough couple of winters, and we need to make sure we're looking at the condition of our roads, sidewalks, and alleys, and upping our efforts to get them fixed. We also provide $791 million in capital spending at Metro, and that will allow Metro to make some capital decisions related to rail cars and related to the remainder of their capital spend. Lastly, I'll mention that we are investing $335 million in the street car program, which will allow us to get H Street up and running, and to connect the current H Street line to downtown Ward 7 at the Metro station, extend to points west on the way to Georgetown. And that's what's funded in the 6-year plan. So while we're able to announce a lot of great initiatives, I will remind everybody that we also had to make tough choices. Part of the reductions that the city administrator talked about a little bit earlier have to do with our fee-for-service rates and reimbursements to hospitals, which represents a significant reduction. Also, a reduction in how we are able to fund preventative maintenance across the city, and a reduction, as I mentioned, all of the clusters experience a reduction, and we have included a $3.5 million reduction at UDC. Lastly, let me mention that we have included some enhancements to revenue. We don't do so lightly, but we thought it was important to have the options of making the investments that DC residents have indicated that they want, including a significant down payment on our homeless services programs and initiatives. So you will recall that since 2010, there have only been 2 years where our sales tax was below 6%, and we recommend returning it to the 6% level, which will produce about $22 million every year and kind of spread the base to support the programs that are important to us. Similarly, we are recommending that we raise the parking tax revenue, parking tax from 18% to 22%, and this increase will allow us, is dedicated by statute, and it will allow us to reduce the impact on our bottom line of not changing the Metro subsidy. So that is what the parking tax can be used for. So with that, I'm going to invite the city administrator, the budget staff, and I'm going to ask the agency directors to be on deck for any questions. Any questions? Yes, Aaron.
The council chairman just said upstairs that he doesn't think it's a good time to increase taxes, that revenue is already increasing year over year. Can you talk about why it's necessary right now to bump up that sales tax?
Yeah, so we, in addition to having to close a $190 million budget gap, which is, we have a big budget, but that's nothing to sneeze at. We also wanted to live up to the expectations of residents to invest in new priorities. And what we heard time and time again is that we have to dedicate $100 million every single year to affordable housing. We have to close DC General, and we have to end homelessness. And the additional revenue will allow us to do that. Yes?
Now that your administration has taken possession of the streetcar project and tentatively wants to expand it to Georgetown and Ward 7, Can taxpayers reasonably expect to know when they might be able to drive it? In 5 years, 4 years, what is the outlook?
Well, I think you know that the streetcar program that we inherited was actually 37-mile proposal. And this budget doesn't speak to 37 miles. Actually, I don't know what the exact mileage is, but it commits to getting 8th Street up and running. And I don't think anybody thinks that the line should stop in the middle of Benning Road, certainly not me. And it extends east to it's a logical termination point at the Metro, and west as well as contemplated. So you recognize that we requested a third-party review, that we have many things to get through, and I expect that as soon as we have the ability to tell you a time when it can run, we'll be able to do that soon.
How close is the district to hiring a private firm to design, build, operate, and maintain?
I'll have to get back to you with that. Yes, Sam.
So you've got UDC by 3 caffeinated education suspension. What was the reason there?
Well, we asked shortly after I came into office was when we got the news about the deficit we would face. And at that time, all of the agencies had already submitted their budgets to Mayor Gray. And we asked them to all go through, once we knew what the deficit was, to look at their budgets again and give us a 5 or 6 or an 8% cut. We started out this discussion saying that you have to be able to justify the spend. And so all of the agencies made those arguments, and this is where we landed with UDC.
What's the impact on the university, though? I'm just curious. You saying they didn't present a good enough case as some others did?
I'm saying that we have to make sure that we're aligning our spend with outcomes at UDC or DCPS or MPD or DDOT, you name it. And we haven't been able to justify not having UDC take a similar cut to other agencies at this time. Yes.
Part of your budget process is the pathway to the plan. If I could follow up on Sam's question, is UDC a community college an integral part for individuals who move into the middle class? So, what considerations went into because
A lot of consideration.
explanation that you didn't think they justified the spending level that they were suggesting, but you agree that funding UDC and community college is an integral part of a pathway to the middle class?
Yes, I do.
So then, isn't that an inconsistency in the whole philosophy behind the budget?
No, I don't believe that it is. Yes.
So you mentioned that you want to cut a certain amount of money, $4.8 million for preventive maintenance. Aren't you concerned that that's going to come back and cost the city more when you have to do more maintenance around the roads?
I'm very concerned about it, but in fact, we know that we have and the city administrator has a great way of explaining this. The more new buildings we have, in fact, the cost in the early years are a little bit lower. And so that's not to say that I'm not concerned about it. In fact, what I told the team is if the chief financial officer should change our revenue estimate to the good, and we're hopeful about that would be one of the first. That and UDC would be one of the first cuts restored. Yes.
You said you're adding $20 million to the
Yes. Let me. Actually, I don't have the chancellor here to break it down. And can somebody get me that? Let me come back to you with that question. Yes.
There's mention that there's going to be $26.7 million in savings.
It's across the board vacancy savings, so across all of the agencies. There's one agency where filled positions may may be impacted. But across all of the other agencies, there are vacant positions. I don't know if you want to say anything more about, it'll appear in the budget documents from each cluster and each agency where we've been able to achieve vacancy savings. I'll say another thing about that. The government has been involved, I think, for longer than I've been in the government, in a classification and compensation study. And the thought was that the classification of our positions is not in line, and it needs to be changed so that we can be more competitive in attracting and retaining employees. So we'll also be investing in making that change to the classification system.
You said that one agency in particular might have current workers affected. Can you say which agency that is?
We don't know if any current workers will be affected, but I think we announced some weeks ago that the chancellor is moving to reduce the number of employees in the central office to make sure that all of the employees that are needed in school buildings are in school buildings. So it is possible that there can be some shifts within the agency. Yes, Janetta.
Two questions, please. Could you explain this 36 million in other cuts? What are the other cuts?
Which slide are you looking at?
I'm looking at the savings, the savings, which I guess are.
Okay, I'm going to ask the city administrator and the budget director to speak to that.
Which slide are you looking at?
I'm looking at savings, 21, 21, sorry about that.
Thank you.
See how down I am?
Oh, so the 36 million in other cuts, and it says tougher choices. Is that what it says? That's the one you're referring to? So those are the items like reducing the fee for service for Medicaid from 98% to 86%. It includes the cuts to UDC. It includes the cuts from preventative maintenance. No, it was an illustrative slide to tell you what some of the cuts are. So there's 182 million in reductions in this budget, all total. And so to talk about them individually to add up to 182 would be quite an exhaustive process. And so generally, it's the reduction.
That's like, what is that? That's 17, 20 million. So generally, the other 16 million, generally, you don't know what that is.
They come from all across the agency. So there are reductions in the health IT system in health, for example, which is $3 million. There's reductions in parks and recreation. It was an enhancement request that was, enhancement means they asked for resources for a program that had not yet started. And so that's a reduction of 1.6. So they come from all over the government. What we tried to highlight are those that were more significant cuts and programmatic cuts that were very difficult.
Okay, and then second question was on the let's see on the this is 20 slide 20 on the carryover fund 47.9. Is the mayor? Are you submitting a supplemental budget for 2015, or how are you carrying over?
So what we're presuming is that when we look at fiscal year 15 and where we expect to end the year, we expect that we will have at least $47.9 million in underspending or current year savings for which to carry over to the next fiscal year in fiscal 16. And so that's how that works. The district historically has underspent or had achieved savings in the current year and has moved those savings over to the next year as a source of revenue. This actually is a smaller reduction in carryover, a smaller use of carryover than has been used in the prior fiscal year. I think in the last fiscal year we carried over $100 million. We're suggesting that we're going to carry over $47 million to 16.
Do you have a breakdown in terms of which agencies you anticipate, or are you using the cap, or is a way to determine it? Have you already?
Well, we've looked at our current fiscal year and how to close that deficit based upon the revenue projections that were provided in the current fiscal year. And we've looked at our agencies in part from the CAFR. So we looked at what the spending rates were in the CAFR for several agencies. We looked at what was proposed for fiscal year 16 in some of those same categories, and have a confidence that across the system, across the government and local agencies that spend local resources, that we can achieve that level. So it will come from any number of agencies in the government.
Janetta, let me get somebody.
Madam Mayor,
We use a number of sources to make that determination, historical trends being one of them.
Yes, sir.
Madam Mayor, your budget calls for funding FEMS equipment needs at $80 million over 6 years. Do you have any idea how many apparatus we're hoping for and potentially when those will be coming online?
Sure. Kevin, do you want to speak to the 6-year plan?
I'll just
Okay.
quickly say the funding levels are consistent with the BDA Global report that had recommended over the course of a number of years, the apparatus levels that we should maintain, and we can provide a more detailed breakdown later on for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Quick question, can you just tell me why you think it's important to present a balanced budget? And second, just wanted to get your input on what you want to tell people out there. You're raising taxes, what's your reasoning for this? Why should they accept it?
Well, first, it's good to have a balanced budget. Everybody knows that that's good even in their own households. And it turns out we have to have a balanced budget by law. So that's important. But also, I just believe that we should spend within our means, and I think that the members of the council, and I know the CFO, share that view. And let me also say that on the question of the sales tax, and why I wish we didn't have to have any enhancements, this is one such that puts us on par with the region. We have had the most recent, I think, 5 years, the sales tax at that level, and so we would return to that. And it's one of those taxes that allows us to spread the base of the tax to many more people. So it is, while I wish we didn't have to consider it, it does allow us to do the new things that residents all across the city, I mean literally in each of our 8 wards, say to me, fix the homelessness problem. Make sure you're dealing with family homelessness. And so we have to find new ways to do that. Yes, Graham.
Mayor, the GCPS has budgeted a $1.8 million cut to Wilson High School for this coming year, and they're citing the funding requirements for at-risk students as the reason for that. But a bunch of parent leaders sent you a letter asking you to restore about $900,000 to the school for the coming year. Can you comment on that? Would you support any changes to that funding makeup?
Well, I don't know if the members of the council want to revisit the Fair Funding Act. That's not the sense that I got. I think it was unanimously passed by the Council of the District of Columbia, and it said that students and schools should be funded according to the needs of the students. And I, as a council member, I voted for that as well. And I know that Chancellor Henderson is looking very closely at Wilson. Last year, she was unable, or we weren't at a place where we could fully implement the at-risk student funding formula this year, and that the Committee on Education and all the members of the council and a lot of people who have come down here to testify stood staunchly behind the full implementation of the at-risk funding formula, and that's where we are. So what I've asked the Chancellor to do is to look very closely at all the budgets to make sure they're accurately being funded according to law.
Yeah, what the Wilson folks are saying is that they could be facing smaller class or bigger class sizes, cuts to extracurriculars. So there are trade-offs. You know, I mean, that you're saying that's sort of the cost that has to be bared for the funding formula.
Well, the funding formula is what it is, and it was unanimously supported down here. And if for me to change it, the law has to change. Yes.
You mentioned sales tax, and I think about it default across the entire city, but obviously sales tax is a regressive form of tax. Why not something like an income tax or a tax on higher income bracket, something like that?
Well, we do have a progressive income tax structure now, and we maintain it. Last year, the council even made some changes based on the Tax Review Commission's recommendations to make our income tax structure more progressive. And what we are doing is following through on another recommendation of the Tax Review Commission, and that's to have the sales tax at 6%. Yes.
Just real quick on the parking factor, I thought the parking division commission testimony was advised against raising the parking tax. So what was,
I actually don't recall if they took a position on the parking tax. Ed, did you?
Not up or down, no.
Okay, they didn't make any recommendations on the parking tax.
clearly some parking magnates might take offense to the idea of parking being more expensive or regulated to the like council and down.
Well, this is what I know, and this is what, I know you believe too, is that we have to make investments. I read you. I know I follow you. We have to make investments in public transportation. I don't think anybody here is arguing that more cars on the road coming downtown is good. Okay, and so I want to all of our taxes and regulations to be fair, but I also know that we have to make critical investments in public transportation, and it happens that the parking tax is dedicated to those improvements. And this, and I think that Councilmember Evans was right to say that our residents can't afford to pay more for the bus or rail right now. And if we want to be able to maintain that position at Metro, we have to be able to find new ways to reduce that cost. And this is one such way. And yes, I am willing to make the argument at the council.
Were there any fees raised or cut in this budget? Parking meters, registration, licensing?
I think the answer is no. No.
Is no. And then can you tell us what your budget projects or counts on for photo enforcement? Is that in your budget, what you're anticipating for photo enforcement and how that compares to last year's fiscal budget?
Yes, let me get the budget team to answer that question. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I can speak to it generally while we're looking at the specific reduction. So we've looked at the camera enforcement program, and we have made revisions in that revenue estimate based upon past performance. Part of what we looked at, the CFO did in February with his revenue reestimate was to revise downward that revenue for fiscal year 15, and so that carries through 16 and the rest of the financial plan. So we've reduced the revenue we anticipate from the photo enforcement and camera program to align with what we're seeing as current trends, and we've really examined our utilization and deployment of those cameras and how that system works to make sure that our 16 estimate is it will be in line with the expectations of that program. But the exact difference between this current fiscal year and 16, what can get you that number?
Yes. One more question about Metro. About Metro, please. Your budget calls for about $800 million for 6 years for their capital expenses. It sounds like your budget team is saying that there's enough money in there to pay for those additional 220 rail cars without increasing that budget over time. Is that accurate? Can you address that issue?
So I think what we're saying as we talked about Metro is that the district's commitment to Metro on the capital side is $771 million. Just as this organization has to prioritize its capital needs for fiscal 16 and our $1.2 billion capital budget, Metro needs to do that over the life of their program. So if in fact new rail cars are the highest priority for capital expenditures in Metro, and our funding is set at the level that we previously agreed to, there are other things in their capital program that they're going to have to reprioritize. We have not come to an agreement, the jurisdictions have not come to an agreement with Metro about how we will deal with the cost for additional rail cars in relation to the current capital program that is in Metro's budget and that they need. And so that conversation is ongoing. So that means they have to prioritize their capital needs within that $771 million from us.
Whether the new car, the additional 220, not the 528 on order, the additional 220 will go toward replacing some of the old ones or fully expanding.
That is what I'm referring to, yes.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.